Here we go.
So while he's doing the spinny thing for the context of the individual videos, we are listening to listener suggestions today. Jesse has conveniently randomized the ones that we received on our Discord. So we're seeing whose suggestion we're listening to.
Jerameh. Okay.
Do we just call
Jerameh
him
only has
Jerameh?
only one
Germ?
submission.
Can I
So
call him Germ?
I call him Germ all the time when we're playing Overwatch together. So that's
Okay.
entirely appropriate.
Awesome. All right, Germ. Germ's suggestion was Flatlands by Chelsea Wolfe. While you're pulling that up. And the introduction we have is Local Artist Born in My City. This album has sentimental value with a past relationship. Every album is very different and dark sounding. This collection of acoustics album, I don't think that's quite what he meant to type. Maybe this a collection of an acoustic album? I don't know, we're going to find out. Was the first one that got me to listen.
All right, here we go.
Do it.
Flatlands. I never cared about money and so dark, quite haunting.
Haunting, but beautiful.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous.
It was really pretty.
Mm-hmm. I was not expecting the arrangement to get so lush like that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to be pretty stripped and intimate, and then it just swelled up, had all these layers. It was amazing.
I'm really glad it did. There
Mhm.
was a moment of concern I had when I realized that like it was just kind of repeating the same arpeggiation and the same notes, and it was like, this is meditative, this is kind of cool, but like
Mm.
if this is all it's gonna be, like that's kind of like not great. But then like the second verse, I think the second verse, because we can't see like the structure, but
Right.
they kind of introduce these like tensiony like strings
Yeah.
that you'd get like
Yeah.
during a movie,
Yeah.
and like a few like off notes here and there where like they kind of like bent the note where it was like kind of strange, and that's like adding all this tension to like the feel of it. So like even though we have this repetition, there's this undercurrent going on that's like adding to the feelings that we have. And
Mhm.
just at the point where it becomes like, this is too much, I'm uncomfortable, then we get to the bridge and it just opens up and it's like
Yeah.
gorgeous, and we're in this
Mhm.
like, I don't know, like a frolicking in a meadow or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're not smiling.
No.
It's a
Just
very like
sad,
straight-faced
sad,
frolic.
yeah.
Sad
Yeah.
frolic.
Yeah.
like
Sad frolic summer.
goth frolicking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. That's a great image.
Mhm.
Goth frolicking.
Mhm.
Yeah. I felt like it was very like melancholy, I think is the word I was looking for. I feel like when I hear dark, I think a different sound than this,
Right.
and that may just be a personal association. But I was really distracted by figuring out the rhythm. I mean, it like it's but how her vocals fit into the 12/8 that was happening in the bass. For those who don't know, like you can divide beats into different ways, and you can divide them into twos or threes typically. And this was in threes, so it's 12/8 rather than 4/4. But because 3 times 4 is 12. Music, math.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I love it when you have beats divided into threes, 12/8, 6/8, whatever you want. I really like the feel of it. And so, but something felt weird with her vocals there, and I was like, oh, are we getting polyrhythm? I think what it is, I think it's just, and like none of this actually matters other than the fact that I'm a nerd and I like to figure this out. But I think it is 12/8 in the arpeggiation, obviously, and I think it's still 12/8 in the vocals, but she throws in some duples, meaning rather than having like she's sometimes dividing the beat into 2 when the arpeggiation is dividing it into 3, which is giving it this like kind of uneasy, unbalanced feeling at certain times. And it was a central part of that vocal rhythm to have that, but it wasn't consistent enough that I think she was in a different time and a different meter than the arpeggio. But it did give it this very, I think that's contributing to that darkness, other than that kind of like deep, broody sounding arpeggiation we were getting from the guitar. I think some of it is also just that decision, that rhythmic decision in her vocals.
Yeah, and that
She
sort
feels
of off-kilter feeling like contributed to the discomfort in listening to it, but also like being fascinated with what's going on at the same time.
That's so interesting because it doesn't make me uncomfortable. Like I would never call it discomfort. I would call it maybe like fascination, but I listen to very strange things, so it may just be, I mean, some of it comes down to how often are you exposed to these sorts of things in a daily practice. But yeah, it is different for sure.
I actually have not noticed that there was a meter kind of thing happening with the voice and the instrumental. So I will have to pay attention to that next time. But in the chat we have Kojima Works there who pointed out something that I wanted to point out immediately. From the very beginning, I actually had the same impression. He says the guitar riff made me think of Hallelujah at the beginning, and I think why that kind of stood out to me was because I think like if you kind of just like play arpeggiated chords and generally the same chords that is used in Hallelujah, sometimes you might stumble into that territory where it feels like it's Hallelujah, and sometimes you might not, even though those chords are pretty common. It's pretty common chords within the major scale, so it's very easy to kind of like accidentally wind up into the Hallelujah territory. But even then, like I've seen songs that have like the same chords and have a arpeggiated instrumental, and still like it has not like really made me feel like it evokes Hallelujah for some reason. But for some reason, like it really made me feel like the first vocal lines we're gonna get is "I heard there was a secret chord." Like it really just felt like I was about to get Hallelujah, and I was like, man, that's kind of funny.
Do you feel like some of that is that like that darkness? Oh no, you're gonna get kitty ASMR.
Hello.
Are you done? That like that broody, melancholic feeling. I mean, Hallelujah is a dark song,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
And I think it sounds like one a lot of the time.
I think it's part of that, yes, and I think it's also kind of like which notes of the arpeggio they're starting at and ending on that like really makes it feel like it's similar to Hallelujah, because there's obviously various ways you can rotate arpeggio to where even if it's the same exact notes, if they are in a different order, you're not going to feel like it's Hallelujah just as much. So maybe there's a similarity there as well.
Yeah. I felt like the most emphasized parts of the arpeggiation was the like lowest notes. And it like I'd have to listen again, like thinking about it, like was that a baritone guitar? Because it sounded like
Probably.
really like
maybe it's
deep.
just maybe thicker gauge strings, but
Yeah.
there's definitely like some heaviness to it, but like also a darker, thick quality to the tone. So yeah,
You could bring that out in the processing,
that as well. Yeah,
production, mastering, whatever you would call it, right?
You could.
Jinx.
We both owe you a soda now.
I've got one already. It's okay.
Oh,
You don't have to give
convenient.
Not sponsored.
But yeah, I like Chelsea Wolfe. I like the song. I have been listening to her music for a while now. I did not know she had this little compilation thing. I will say that even though I've known of Chelsea Wolfe for a long while now and have been coming back to her music every now and then, I wouldn't say like I'm like a super deep knowledgeable listener of her music. I've mostly stuck with like her middle work of her discography because she's pretty prolific and has been around for a while now. But I would say like I've mostly come back to like her middle work, and this seems to line up more with like her early stuff, which I think is my least amount that I've listened to. So this feels actually very different from the typical Chelsea Wolfe that I'm used to, which is she's much more darker, and I feel like maybe that's why I attribute darkness to this song. Where I can see like where you're coming from. Like it doesn't feel very dark, and it feels dark in maybe in a different way. But because I'm so exposed to what she typically is, which is really dark, that I feel like glimmers of that here. But this is actually like quite beautiful and more approachable than what I'm more typically used to from Chelsea Wolfe. Like she definitely has more of a art rock approach to her songs, very experimental, sparse instrumentals. There's definitely like this very kind of avant-garde approach to a lot of her songs, and this feels more grounded, more straightforward, which I think is really cool because I think she's such a cool voice, a cool visionary, a cool artist. So to see that she has something that's like more immediate, in your face, I think it's really cool.
I find it interesting that you call this one straightforward because if I compare this to like a top 40 song, this is not straightforward at all.
Okay, yeah. That's a good point.
there's some really interesting decisions that she made that are like really thought provoking, and
Yeah.
even just like looking at the technicalities of it, it's just like, wow, there's a lot going on that I don't
Yeah.
normally get to listen to in folk or pop or whatever.
Mm.
And like those vocals during the bridge, like she doubles the whole time, and then like suddenly
Mhm.
starts splitting, and it's like it's gorgeous.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really interested to hear more from her, and especially from this acoustic album. That sounds like, if you're explaining it as experimental avant-garde rock,
Yeah.
I imagine this is not the style of instrumentation that you're normally getting from her.
Very much so. Yeah.
I'd be curious to hear her normal sound, but also more of this.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a whole album for it, so that's
Yeah.
awesome.
All right. Are we ready for the next one?
We're ready for the next one.
Okay.